Yes, people, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler, joined with you this evening. It's Wednesday, the 6th of December. It's 7:04. Apologies for the 4-minute delay. We were going to do a 3-minute countdown intro thing anyway. We decided to skip that, so we're only 1 minute behind schedule. Oh, why am I hearing myself on a loop? I shouldn't be hearing that. Let's get rid of that. Let's start the proceedings as I mean to continue. Guys, welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm here tonight. This is the Devil's Advocate. It's usually on Tuesday lunchtimes, occasionally Wednesday lunchtimes, but today it's Wednesday evening. And instead of the wonderful Johnny H3232 from Twitter, we've got the wonderful Adam Cahill from Wild Stag Media to join myself and Dave. We got to talk all things West Ham United. We also got to talk about the reset, the reallocation of expectations. Everybody was writing off Tottenham, myself included, by saying, let's go back. Let's go back to where we were. Let's go back to where we were at the start of the season when it was all about playing good football and we'll take whatever we can get in the league. And then after we got to the top of the pinnacle, we were like, no, maybe, just maybe there's something magical happening. And then after what happened at Chelsea, everyone was like, oh, let's go back. But then after City, are we going back to where we almost went to before? We're going to talk all about it. And we got to talk about how we're going to get past the spammers. Let's find out how Dave and Adam are doing. Dave, how are you, my man?
Yeah, lad, I'm in good form, as good as can be, my man. Really do enjoy these shows. Good to be on screen with Adam again. It's been quite some time. Thanks for having me, and plenty to talk about tonight, my man.
It's good to see you, Dave. It's great to see you, Adam. Well, it's great to see both of you. Adam, how are you, mate? It's been a long time, as Dave was saying. It's been a while since you've been on the Spurs Talk Show. How you been? You lost weight, haven't you?
Lost weight? No, I don't know. I think maybe it's just the beard has changed the shape of my face. I'm not sure.
Well, the camera angle a little bit more. Is the camera angle a little bit more north as well? Have you set it a little bit higher?
Probably, yeah.
Is the camera angle representing your expectations for Tottenham this season?
I love the way you like to read into absolutely everything, Sean.
100%.
No, I'm doing well, buddy. I've been away for a bit just because you know yourself. I've got two passions and I have to split myself between the two. So I've been doing quite a lot of movie podcasts and I've got a lot of work on my plate to get some funds organized for my wedding over in Brazil next May. So an awful lot to get done, in the next few months. So it's crazy times, but I'm delighted to be back on with you because I can never take too long away from talking Spurs. Sometimes you got to vent some stuff, and it's time to talk about the real deal, the real shit that's going on at the moment. So I'm delighted to be back on with you guys.
Just quickly on that, just one sec, Dave, just very quickly, guys. I'm trying my absolute best to see if I can not get limited ads. So can I ask both of you best behavior with the swear words today, if that's possible?
You're talking to two Irishmen and telling us both not to swear, but okay, no problem. We'll do our best.
We use swear words just to join two sentences together, Sean. I'll keep it in the back of my mind for sure. I just want to congratulate Adam on the success of his movie as well. I know a lot of time, blood, sweat, effort, and tears went into it. So congratulations, my man.
Thanks, brother. I really appreciate that.
100%, buddy. The second one's on its way soon. Let's quickly say hello to a couple of people that have joined us thus far. This evening, we got Covered Speakers Bureau saying, let's go. What's happening? Covered Speakers Bureau. And call you CSB. Good to see you, my man. You have done. He's hit the like button. Have the rest of you, please, as you know, guys, I need you to ask you some very, very brief, easy favors to make sure that you are hitting the like button. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. And, of course, if you want to, and you should, but if you haven't already, then get over to the Irish Hotspur and get over to Wild Stag Media. Or, in fact, Adam, if you've got I know you wanted to promote the other channel. If you put it into the private chat, I'll replace Wild Stag Media in the title. But
Wild Stag Media is the new one. Wild Stag Media is the new one. The other one was Wild Stag Productions. Yeah, so Wild Stag Media is the new one. That's all good. Nice,
beautiful. So both titles of the channels for Adam and for Dave are in the chat. Adrian Stroker's in the house. What's happening, Adrian? Good to see you, mate. So is Stradders. So is Totspurs. What's happening, my man? How you doing? But good to see you, buddy. Tom Thacker's in the house. What's crack-a-lacking? Scripting Wands. Good to see you. Big up the panel. Shem Tam's in the house as well. Big up Sean, Dave, and Adam. VAR camera angle. 100%. That's what Adam's working with here. Naturally difficult angle to see anything clear. Liam's in the house. We got to see Liam. Keith here as well. Boxing Hotspur and Peter Chan is here as well. Would have liked Foyth in this Ange team. That's a random comment out of absolute left field, but maybe we can talk about that one. Good to see you, Peter. Spurs GC TV's in the house as well. Good to see you, my man. Daniela Zito. Good to see you. Scooter Reacts, one of the members. Good to see you, Scooter. The first member in the house this evening, I believe. And Simon D as the kid and KM. Good to see you guys. Listen, let's get straight into it, guys. West Ham United tomorrow night. In fact, no, let's not start straight away into West Ham. Let's figure out how we're feeling going into West Ham by let's talking briefly about Manchester City. I was at the game. I was at the stadium. I was emotional, so emotional that I ended up making some bad decisions so that I didn't end up coming home on the Sunday. Stayed in Manchester on the Monday. I stayed in Warrington on the Monday. It's an interesting town. And so I didn't really get back and get a chance to talk to too many people, see too much content. But I took a lot away from the game and I was proud of the boys. I haven't heard, Dave, your take on it. I haven't heard Adam. So love to get your takes on, what you were expecting, what you saw, the good, the bad, the ugly. Dave, I'll start with you. You're on mute, mate.
You're muted, bro. You're muted.
Amateur hour. I do apologize. After 20 minutes, I get into the flow of things. First of all, Sean is going to say you could recommend me a place to stay because I am going to Manchester in May to see Nickelback. So
you don't want to stay where I stayed, mate. It was.
I've heard there's a lot of dodgy areas around there. So yeah, I need to. If anyone in the comments can recommend a decent area to stay, that would be nice. But look, Sean, when it comes to Man City, I'll be honest, I was very, very disappointed in the first half of the game. And the reason why is because although we went into it like a wounded animal, right? Walking wounded with so many injuries. I do feel when you're going into them games, although City are above us on a footballing scale in terms of quality and stuff like that, the great equalizer is working hard, harassing them, getting after them and stuff like that. And I don't feel like we've done that with Man City in the first half. We were being brutally honest. We were lucky to get out of there 2-1 at halftime, but they failed to punish us. I want to give credit to Postecoglou, showing some cojones, changing things up at halftime. Sean, how many conversations did we have last year doing watch-alongs? We want to see changes at halftime, and Antonio Conte refused to do it. And, bringing in Højbjerg shows the benefits of changes at halftime if they have to be made. So, and credit to Højbjerg as well. Absolutely, completely changed the game with that substitution. It allowed us to it gave us a bit more stability at the back, but also it gave us someone to be able to get on the ball. I felt when Basuma was going for the ball, there was already two people going with him, waiting to pounce on him, whereas with Højbjerg, he was sort of left alone to go and get that ball and start progressing it from the back line into the forward line, which was a huge problem in that first half. So credit on the substitution. But ultimately, I felt I left proud, Sean, proud of the fight. It was a real David versus Goliath. The one thing I take away from that is David always wins. So absolutely proud of the boys. Great performance. No one gave us a hope going there. And the fact that we got out of there with a point, even after that late setback from the Basuma goal, to still pick ourselves up and go and get the equalizer. Absolutely magnificent from the boys. And one thing I left taken away from it is, so far this season, we've played Man United, bet them. Liverpool, bet them. Drew away at the Emirates and drew away at the Etihad. They're the litmus test of Ange ball and how productive and how good it really will be for Tottenham going forward. And if we're pulling out results with what we've already got, imagine what we'll do with another window or two. And for me, I'll leave that game knowing Ange is the right man. And combined with the way he plays and the work rate that he expects from his team, we'll constantly turn over them big teams. We've got more, I think we've got the same amount of points, or if not more, off big teams this season than what we did all the entire of last season. So I'll definitely leave that game knowing that Ange Postecoglou is the right man to take this club forward.
Yeah, love that, Dave. Adam, Dave makes a couple of interesting points. I'm going to save one of them to come back to after you give me your initial take, but I'll let you go with how you feel about the Man City game, but I do want you to summarize it at the end with to come back onto Dave's point about our performances this season so far against the top teams. Absent Chelsea, I don't even know if you consider Chelsea part of the top six this season, but absent them, every team we come up against, we haven't lost to a top six team yet. We've gone away to Arsenal, away to City, played Liverpool at home, played Man United at home, undefeated. It's a bit of a tale of the tape. There's a difference. It's a massive turning point. Tottenham usually do well, against everybody else, but struggle against the top four, however you want to think of it, the top four, top five. So far this season, with apart from that little pre-game period, and it's understandable why what happened there, but done really well and impressive against the big boys playing our version of football. Is this something that we should all universally latch onto and get behind? Because Tottenham teams of the past have always been said, okay, you can play against the little boys, but how do you play against the big ones? This season, we're starting to turn that shift into a different tide.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad information, but let me just kind of say initially.
Before you do, Adam, this is the point of the show. Your debut on the Devil's Advocate. The whole point of this show is to be contradictory and to play.
Okay.
Yeah,
no, don't worry.
Go for it, bro.
I'm gonna what word can I use instead of S? I'm gonna poop all over what Dave just said. No, I have long-term optimism and short-term pessimism at the moment with the way things are, and the reason being is that obviously we know with the transfer windows ahead, the players that we know that Ange is capable of bringing in because he has that experience. We know what he's done with previous teams. He's an incredible scout in and of himself. He'll go out and he'll get the exact right players for his philosophy and his strategies. So long term, I think that the future is incredibly bright for Tottenham. However, in the immediate future, I see terrible things happening between now and January. I really do. And the reason being is that I love what we have accomplished this season already. When you talk about the fact that we took 3 points from Liverpool, 3 points from Manchester United, and a point from Man City and from Arsenal, that sounds great, but context matters. And when we beat Man United, when we beat Liverpool, when we drew with Arsenal, we did that with our best 11, right? And since the Chelsea game, we got absolutely buckled, and Chelsea absolutely ramrodded us. We then had Wolves and Aston Villa have done us over as well, right? The only reason why we didn't suffer 4 defeats in a row the other day is simply that it is absolutely, totally and utterly true that some teams have bogey sides, and it's amazing that we are that for Manchester City, but that is what we are for Manchester City. We are their bogey side. Lads, let's be fair. They missed some sitters in that game that they wouldn't ordinarily miss. And Grealish was on goal, clear on goal at the very end of the game, and the referee screwed them over. So I'm sorry, we beat them. Don't get me wrong, it was a great performance. The way Ange has us playing is commendable, and we're seeing some incredible football in spite of the losses, which is awesome. I'm delighted with the way that we're playing. But the only reason we won that game is because we're their bogey side. It is legitimate. It's amazing that we get to be the bogey side of one of the greatest teams ever assembled.
You didn't think we played well in the second half enough to
but we should have it should have been out of sight before the second half, though. They should have been
you make the same argument for for me, I'd summarize it as like Tottenham took their chances. We only got 3 or 4 chances in that game, and we took 3 of them. Against Aston Villa, we had 5 or 6 chances in the first 25 minutes and only took 1 of them. And Manchester City had chances against us, didn't take them. Aston Villa didn't have chances against us, but took what they did. And that's sometimes the tale of the tape, right? It's the difference. It's fine margins in football. You are like the half a meter offside that we were 3 times in that game. And so I just, again, devil's advocate, everyone's opinions are welcome, but we have to challenge each other on this particular show. That's the point of the show. I would just say that, if you're going to say that we should have been smashed by Man City, I would counter and say, well, we should have smashed Aston Villa.
Yes, but there's a different reason why we lost to Aston Villa and why we were able to take points away from City. Again, they had loads of chances and didn't take them, which they normally would against other teams, which goes to my point about us being their bogey side. Aston Villa, we should have won that game and we should have won the Wolves game. And what let us down was the thing that's going to let us down going forward, which is that we have Ben Davies playing in centre back. That's going to be an issue going forward. Yes, I'm delighted that Romero is coming back, but he is not our best centre back. Mickey van der Ven came into the team and made the defense his own. He is one of the best that there is. Our system depends on his pace, him getting back and cleaning up in our back line. And so the fact that he's still missing and Ben Davies is going to occupy that space until January, we are still liable to concede an awful lot of goals that we weren't conceding previously. Vicario is absolutely outstanding. And it's putting him under so much pressure and making him look bad, even though he's an absolute super keeper, right? Because that's how bad Ben Davies is. I don't care. So many people giving him flowers lately, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Ben Davies is an absolutely shocking piece of trash and needs to be gotten rid of immediately. And I'm being a bit hyperbolic because I'm so annoyed that he's in the side. But seriously, though, like he gives a 6 out of 10 performance most of the time, and then every now and again there'll be clangers. And recently, because we've depended on him so much,
he was responsible for one of the goals, though, right? Was it the third goal or the second goal?
Yeah, the second goal.
Second
goal, he broke the line. He's been responsible for 4. He's been responsible for 4 goals over the last 3 games. The 2 against Villa, blamed him for. 1 against Wolves, the last one, I blame him for. And that second one against Newcastle or against Man City, I blame him for. The problem we've got with Ben Davies is, and Roy Keane sort of spoke about after the game, is that split-second decision-making that footballers have to make. 9 times out of 10, he makes the wrong decision, and it is coming back to be costly. And I agree with you on that, Adam. One of my biggest frustrations is, why do we keep going back to the same players that have let us down time and time again? It's the definition of insanity. Why don't we go with something different? But that's where I do believe Postecoglou and Tottenham earned that result against Man City, because underneath Antonio Conte last season, a lot of the sort of gripes with him was, regardless of the results and the way we were playing, he wouldn't change personnel. Whereas with Postecoglou, he tried Dyer against Wolves, didn't work out, dropped them versus Villa. On another day, we should have really bet them. But then, he went with the same team more or less against Man City, pulling Kulu out wide, put him into the middle, and then also changing it up at half time. Postecoglou is making changes, and I think that's why I don't think we'll suffer the same sort of rut that we have suffered under previous managers like Conte and Jose and stuff like that, because Postecoglou will change it. He will try different things, and I think that might ultimately get us out of this rut and push us forward. Although I do agree with you how costly Ben Davies is. He's liable to cost you at any moment.
Look, I've been someone that has been fairly defensive of Ben Davies. I think that he is... Look, I think we all know if we want to go to a higher level, right, then you need to level up the people beneath, the people that are second fiddle. But Ben Davies the intention isn't to have him part of the first team. But if you were to look at the second, third, fourth choice of most of the teams around us, if you were to look at Arsenal's 5th choice centre back, 4th choice centre back, or even, let me say it a different way, third choice left back, who has to be shoehorned into a centre back role, then I don't know who that person is for Arsenal. I don't know who that person is for Man United. I don't know who that person is for Liverpool. Manchester City have got, 5 centre backs, and they play their second choice or first choice centre back at left back. So they're a different beast. But ultimately, I think that I was harsh on Ben Davies yesterday when I did my review, because I think when I watched it back, I saw the snapshots of the sort of screenshots, if you like, of the second goal and the Haaland first chance that he put wide, and the 4th chance when Grealish should have got through in the 93rd minute or whatever, and Ben Davies was playing them onside for every one of them. So I was, I called him out for it. But ultimately, I think you also have to just bake into your thought process that, we are dealing with what we're dealing with. He doesn't have a recognised centre-back to play with. The other centre-back doesn't have a recognised centre-back to play with. Emerson Royale being shoehorned in, playing with someone who isn't necessarily a centre-back either. I think we have to be a little bit, conscious of throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying that actually, yes, they've made mistakes, but they're not responsible for knowing the intricacies of centre-back roles.
No,
He's responsible for. He's responsible. He is absolutely responsible for us losing those 2 games. So, when you talk about responsibility,
I disagree
he's
massively.
absolutely responsible. He is completely responsible.
He might be partly responsible for the goals that were conceded, but
which is why we lost the games.
No, the reason why we lost the Wolves game was because the people that were the attacking threat didn't score any goals, didn't create anything.
That's also true.
You can point to the defenders for not doing their job when called upon, or for recklessly abandoning their philosophy at certain times in the game. But I don't point to the fact that we lost the Wolves game at the defenders. I point to what happened to Sonny, what happened to Basuma in that game. Where was the fitness that Brennan Johnson suddenly managed to find against Manchester City? He suddenly had 92 minutes in him. Against Wolves and against Villa, he had 45 minutes in him. Where was Decky in that
I've been struggling with the Johnson argument, mate? That's one of the things that I've been struggling with people. Like I messaged you a couple of weeks ago saying, like, there's so many different takes that I'm hearing on different channels at the moment that are driving me mental, and I haven't got the time to get on and talk to people about it. But one of the takes was about Brendan Johnson and everyone going on about that he doesn't have 90 minutes. It was very, very clear in the games that he has struggled on only 2 of them. That he's, for whatever reason, I don't know whether it's his diet or what it is, he's starting to cramp towards the end of those games, and he just did whatever he. I don't know.
He had it against City. He had 90 minutes in him against City
because he didn't cramp. He didn't exactly. So he didn't cramp. It has nothing to do with the gas tank. He's got the miles. He was cramping in those games, and I don't know whether he wasn't eating his bananas. I don't know what it is, but he's obviously sorted himself out, and hopefully that won't be an issue going forward. But it was just cramp. And people saying that he didn't have the gas tank was just driving me mental, because it was very obvious what was wrong with him.
I had a conspiracy theory that he was vaping. Go on, Dave. You want to come in?
Just before we get into Brennan Johnson deeper, I completely disagree with what you were saying about Ben Davies, Sean. Like, especially when it comes to the Wolves game, yeah, we can sit here and look at other areas of the pitch that didn't perform, but the reality is the other areas consistently perform, whereas when he plays in that back line, it's consistently been underwhelming, and that's why the defence takes a lot of the blame. Another reason why is because when we had our first full fit defence out in front of Vicario, the defence was the reason why we were getting over the line. Is because we were able to keep teams from scoring goals. We were keeping clean sheets. So when Davies steps in, it is up to him to continue that on. And if he can't, then it's just he ain't good enough. And I don't take this fact that he's being shoehorned in. For Wales, for the last, I don't know how many years he's been playing, in as a centre-back for them. He played centre-back for us last year. And the reason why he's being moved inside is because he ain't good enough and doesn't have the legs to be able to play left-back anymore in his original position. And this is our biggest problem. We need to cut that crap out, and we just need to go and get proper designated centre-halves to fill in that position. But I don't buy it with Ben Davies. I think with Ben Davies and the likes of Dyer and all, I think they get way too many excuses purely because people are attached to them for how long they've been here, rather than sit here and call a spade a spade. When it comes to other individuals like Romero and everything else, everyone is very easy to point out their flaws. But when it comes to Ben Davies, I hear people covering up their flaws all the time, and I'm absolutely fed up with it. He ain't good enough to be here. Just get him gone and stop looking at other people for his own mistakes.
Well, listen, I don't disagree with the individual allocation of responsibility. I'm just saying, if you said yourself, the reason why we won those games was because the defense didn't concede, then that also shines a light on the attacking players not doing their jobs well enough, right? If the attacking
how many times have they dug us out, though, Sean? How many times has the front line dug us out? They're like, last year the front line wasn't the problem.
Last year was Harry Kane.
Last year was the worst defense in Tottenham's history.
Last year, Harry Kane dug us out of trouble more times than anybody else did. Last year, Decky didn't do anything. Richarlison didn't do anything. Sonny had an off year last year. This year, thus far, Sonny started very well in the 9. Maddison was fantastic, but Richarlison's been terrible. Brennan Johnson hasn't had a fantastic start to life as a Tottenham player. I don't think he's warranted. Listen, as much people say you're not responsible for the price tag that comes with you, at the end of the day, that is what it is, right? You wear that. That's a sword. That's a cross you have to bear. Let's call it that way. Richarlison hasn't justified his value. Brennan Johnson, I don't think has justified his value. I thought he played well against Manchester City, but I thought he was terrible against Aston Villa. I thought he was absolutely shocking against Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think the last time I saw him play well was in the 20 minutes he had against Arsenal before he came off injured. All I'm saying is that if other players in the team carry their weight a little bit more, then you free up a little bit of freedom for defenders to have mistakes. Because if like a striker makes a mistake, all the outcome is the scoreline doesn't change, but you go down with a missed opportunity. If a defender makes a mistake, and God forbid, we haven't seen it yet, but God forbid Vicario was to start making mistakes, you're punished all the time. That's just the consequences of being in the position that you are. But I think that there is not the same level of allocation. People look to what happened. We conceded a goal. We lost the game against Wolves. We conceded 2 late goals against them. We conceded 2 goals unnecessarily against them on a play against Aston Villa. Let's throw all of our weight behind the people
I don't think that's
directly
true,
responsible for that. But for me, when you concede a goal here, the goal doesn't start. The concession doesn't start and finish when you reverse engineer it and say, who was the player that was last involved in the play? You could go back into the game and say, actually, we could have been 3-0 up, but we weren't because of mistakes elsewhere.
But this is what we always do.
If we're going to allocate accountability, there needs to be more allocated to the people at the top end.
I get the point you're making, right? But the people we're can't blame to step up way more over the course of every single season than what he does at the back line. So when he comes to make them mistakes, obviously it's more elevated and more highlighted. But the reason why people like me off a one-off game won't go after Son is because every player has a bad game, a one-off game. But Davies is consistent, as we've seen over the run of period since he's come in. That's why people get on his case, because it's consistently.
Right. And listen, I'm not. My job here isn't to defend. We're doing the devil's advocate. You know how I think we all feel that we go harder on Romero. We should go harder on Romero because expectations around him are higher than they are of our second fiddle players. Right. I was having this conversation earlier. Let me pivot the conversation for a minute. So I was having this conversation with Mia about Højbjerg, and I know Adam how you feel about Højbjerg, but you could make the argument that he is 6th choice midfielder at Tottenham, right? That Lo Celso, Maddison, Bentancur, Sarr, and Bissouma are all ahead of him in the pecking order. And she was saying he's not good enough. And I was like, what? As a 6th choice midfielder, he's not good enough to play for Tottenham. And she's like, nope, don't think he is. And I was like, who's the 6th choice midfielder for Manchester City? Who is the 6th choice midfielder for Arsenal? Who is the 6th choice midfielder for Liverpool? Who's the 6th choice midfielder for insert any team here? And I don't think you'll find a player that's got a better caliber than Højbjerg. I don't know if we're going a little bit too harsh on this idea that however far down the pecking order you go at Tottenham, you should have the same expectations of the players as you do the first 11. And I would make the same argument.
Davis is not our 5th choice centre back, though, is the problem. Like when we're talking about culpability, Davis is going to cost us games, which he has done. When you're comparing about treating him more harshly than the advancing players, I don't think that's true at all. Because although while we're watching the game, we're having a little bit of a moan when someone doesn't take their chance, and then it's not much more than that. But when we're seeing defenders concede, obviously we're losing our minds. I get that's how it happens during the game, but after the game, when we're talking about what teams would we set up for the next game, we already talk about, okay, we need to bring in attackers to replace the likes of Richarlison and Hill and so because we're not happy enough with them. So it's not as though they don't get the same heat. We're talking about, like, apart from bringing in a new centre back this January, what does everybody else want to see? We want to see another attacker. And is that because we don't? But why is that? It's because we don't believe our attackers are good enough either. Now, right. The difference being that our attackers are at least when do we go a game where we don't score, right? At least we're capable of doing that. When you've got Ben Davis in the back,
another great point though. It's a great point that you might have unintentionally made there, mate. But the style of football that we are set up to play encourages mistakes at the back in the effort to afford more opportunities at the front.
Yeah, but we're not like when you have the appropriate personnel in place, you're not going to concede in the same way. We're riskier, but when you have Romero and Van der Ven there, we're absolutely well able and capable to deal with some of the mistakes that are being made every now and again. And whenever we do lose possession, the players are there to deal with it. Our next choice centre back is now Ben Davies, and he's way off the mark and should have been put out to pasture a long time ago.
I don't disagree with that, right? Look, I'm not sitting here proclaiming that I think that Ben Davies or Eric Dyer or anybody else. I think that Tottenham missed a trick by not having another centre back in. I think the reason why we are where we are is because of a hell of a lot of misfortune. Plus, of course, Romero. Where I know Dave still will maintain, and to a degree, I agree with him that it wasn't a red card, but ultimately, he's forged a reputation for himself that will encourage that sort of situation happening again. But we are where we have been where we've been because of losing both centre backs at the same time, right? And then on top of that, you have a fairly new system, a right back who doesn't really have a technically is learning, but isn't really an adaptable a defensive right back, and Destiny Udogie, who also has a bit of a lunatic gene in him. Let's not forget, who's now on 4 yellow cards and 1 more yellow card, and we have to then shoehorn Ben Davies back into the left back situation in a couple of games' time, no doubt. So all I'm saying is that I feel like there is, and I was guilty of it myself, as I said at the start. I'm not like distancing myself. I threw Davies under the bus in the review, but I'm just saying that I think that as a system that we play, as a philosophy that we indulge in, you have to expect that this system is going to afford opportunities to the other teams. And Ben Davies is not our first choice centre back, and therefore we shouldn't have the same expectations of him as we do.
I disagree.
Other teams.
We're not sitting here talking about Emerson making mistakes over the last 4 games directly leading to goals, are we?
Yeah, he's a right back being put to
he's not a natural centre back, and this is my point. Goes back to my point when it comes to Davies and Dyer in the past and Sanchez, we make all the excuses possible to cover up their flaws. But Emerson hasn't made one mistake that's directly.
Emerson was terrible.
Emerson was nowhere near as bad as Davies. Emerson was nowhere even.
And he hasn't even got praise for it.
To the degree that I would play Davies, I would play Emerson at left centre back with Romero over Davies if it were me. I know it's not going to happen, but I would absolutely 100% be playing the Romero and Emerson as the 2 centre backs over Davies. I don't want Davies anywhere near that team. And the reason why we were having the conversation in the first place is because we're talking about what kind of condition Spurs are in now. How are things going to be going forward after the Man City game, after putting in the kind of performance that we did? The fact of the matter is, I believe that we're still going to get I'm going to swear again. We're going to get very few points in the coming games as a result of the fact that we're still playing Ben Davies at the back. This is why I'm saying I'm long-term optimistic, short-term pessimistic. I don't believe we're going to pick up very many points between now and Bournemouth. I really don't. I think that we'll be lucky just to sort out West Ham. We love to stick it to West Ham. So I really hope that we put it in against them. I can't stand them. All the other, top London teams, I absolutely hate their guts. So I hope we destroy them, and maybe we will because we'll put in a shift against them. Maybe. But I still think we're getting destroyed by Newcastle. I still think there's going to be a low. And
really?
Yeah. And what will end up happening is it'll be as a result of, Newcastle will sort us out, mate. I really believe that. Like, I really.
Newcastle away from home are not the same team as they are in the.
But we're a dismantled unit. We're a decimated team, and I don't think that putting 3 goals past Man City and drawing with them as their bogey team says anything about the way things are going to be in the next few weeks. We've got a lot of tough games coming up for the remainder of December.
Do you think Manchester City away is an easier game than Newcastle at home?
For Tottenham, yes. Yep.
Interesting. Dave, do you agree?
Yes.
What, that we're going to get done by Newcastle?
No, which game is more difficult for Tottenham?
Manchester City away or Tottenham at home? Oh, sorry, Newcastle at home.
Oh, Man City away
is the easier game. Right?
Oh no, the toughest game. Newcastle at home is easier.
Yeah. I don't think. I honestly don't believe that. I think there's a legitimate hoodoo in sports. We know that Chelsea are our hoodoo team. We are always getting completely gazumped by Chelsea, even when we're the better team. They always do us. We always do Man City. Every single team has their bogey side. We're Manchester City's, so that's the only reason that I will 100% say I would rather play Man City home or away any day of the week than play against Newcastle anywhere at the moment.
All right. Well, let's we're going to move away from the City game and talk specifically about the West Ham game now. Before we do, Drew Zilla with the super chat. Big up, Drew. Really appreciate you, mate. Hope you're doing well, buddy, over in Kansas. Big up, lads. Hope you're all well. Watching from work. Chat, smash those likes for the show. Appreciate you, mate. Always doing the God's work, the Lord's work from afar. Please, guys, do smash that like button for the show. And also make sure you hit the subscribe if you haven't already on this channel. And even if you have, make sure you're still subscribed. And then whilst you're doing that, get yourself over to the two lads, subscribers, the channels in the title of the page, Wild Stag Media and the Irish Hotspur. And then we've also got from Frankly Tottenham. Big up, Frank. Hope you're okay. Anyone think Dyer faked his injury? He's not happy. Adam, I'll let you take this one, mate. Do you think Eric Dyer? I don't know if you guys saw the first part of the pre-match press conference.
Yeah,
he asked one of the guys asked about Eric Dyer. He's like, yeah, no, he's still injured. And the guy's like, just out of curiosity, what's wrong with him? Yeah, groin injury. It was all very. It was all like, yeah.
When we seem to have options, right, or players back that can play there, mysteriously Dyer goes with an injury. It's the same for large part of the start of the season, right? Injured up until we needed him, and then he's back in match day squads. All of a sudden now Romero's back, don't need him. He's got another injury. It's quite clear Ange doesn't want him. He doesn't want to be with Ange. Just get it over and done with in January for all of our sakes. We've already seen since we've moved on from Dyer, Davies, Sanchez, people like that, and we now got Romero. Where we had Romero and Van de Ven, we've seen the massive dramatic improvement. So just get them all gone.
But I don't think that the implication of Frankly Tottenham's super chat is anyone think that Dyer faked his injury, he's not happy. Is the implication that he faked an injury so he can just not play anymore and then leave? Because I don't think Dyer wants to leave. I think that if he's faking an injury, it's only to appease his ego so that it can be like, oh, the only reason Ange is not playing me as third choice centre back is because I'm injured. It's not for any other reason. But I'm sure he's more than happy to continue cashing in his checks every single week, and he's not going to get anywhere near that much money going to another team. I'm sure he's just waiting out the contract to try and soak up as much money as possible. So he's not happy. Is the implication, Frankly Tottenham, that he is looking for an exit? Because he ain't looking for an exit. He ain't looking for an exit at all.
Yeah, I think. Look, I haven't been an advocate of tearing up contracts, but I think in January, because of the squad is currently chock-a-block, and we've currently got people like Hugo Lloris and Eric Dyer taking up positions. Ange has made it about as clear as he possibly can that Eric Dyer is not going to play. So on that basis, with only 6 months left, I think the guy only earns 60 grand a week. I say only, but he earns 60 grand a week, which is what, about
more than he
deserves. £2 million a year.
You thought with me all summer long about ripping up contracts, Sean. You said it can't be done.
No, I said it shouldn't be done. I said it sets horrible precedents, and it also disrupts your kind of financial cash flow forecasting. But when you're 6 months before the end of the season, it's going to cost you £1 million. £1 million is, if he's point blank refusing to go, then given that how much dire need we are currently in, and we haven't got the room to bring new players in, if you were to get rid of him and Hugo Lloris, and obviously it frees up 2 foreign quota contingents. So I'm more on board with it in January than just because of the circumstances that we're in. I'm not flip-flopping. I just think that there's a new information, open-mindedness, flexibility of thought, Dave.
Look, I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying. And look, I'm with you. I think it has to be done. If they don't want to go anywhere, pay them out, rip them up. But this is why I argued to do it in the summer, because it's already come back to haunt us, right? So that's why I argued for it to be done in the summer. Get ahead of the problem. Yeah.
Well, look, let's hope he's not going to be participating in the festivities tomorrow. Massive game tomorrow. To me, it feels like only 30 seconds ago of my waking life that we were at Manchester City, such as the last 3 days have been a vacuum in my existence. But We are back talking about Tottenham again. West Ham United. I did a pre-match sort of walk and talk earlier with my predicted 11. We got to talk about this one because I feel like this is. Oh, what's going on?
We lost
Dave disappeared for a second. We have to. Look, there's a lot to talk about, Adam. It's a game where let's presume for a second that Vicario is going to start. Udogi's on the left, Porro's on the right, Romero's back in. Thank God. The first decision has got to be who plays alongside Romero. Naturally, Ben Davies fits because he's left-sided, left-footed. Do you think that there's a shout to not put him in and put Royale in, or do you expect Davies to start alongside Romero tomorrow night?
I expect Davies to start because he's been playing in a centre-back role. He's had more experience playing in a centre-back role for longer, and he's a left-footed player. So I can see Ange sticking with Davies. But I mean, I was surprised when he completely rejigged the team in recent weeks. So I think that there's he's a smart guy. I can see him considering the option. But so I won't be shocked if he keeps Emerson instead of Davies, because Emerson is he's just a better defender, far and away a better defender. He's quicker, but I'm expecting Doherty flipping heck, we wouldn't want Doherty back. I'm expecting Davies to stay in the team because of the experience in the position and the fact that he's left-footed. But Emerson Royal is not he's not good on the ball, folks. Let's be fair, right? He is not good on the ball whatsoever, but he is a solid defender in the sense of making sure that we are keeping the attackers at bay. And Ben Davies is good for nothing as far as I'm concerned.
Dave, welcome back. We just got through to the West Ham starting 11, or for Tottenham starting 11. We just got through to the back four. I guess at the moment Romero's back in, which is a godsend. But who do you see starting alongside? Adam says he believes Davies is coming back in, but he's not happy about it.
I'm with him on that. I'm not happy. I do believe Davies will start alongside Romero, even though I'm not happy with it whatsoever. I think, he should be dropped for the amount of mistakes he's made. I've argued for a long time I'd rather give someone like Dorrington the opportunity, which, interesting enough, Postecoglou said today that debut just might be coming in the next couple of weeks. So everyone that called me deluded on that front, eat humble pie and enjoy the taste of it is what I would say. But when it comes to Davies or Emerson, I'd actually rather play Emerson. And look, don't get me wrong. I think Emerson was atrocious on the ball against Man City. No hiding away from that. But defensively, he was okay in terms of holding the line and doing what he was supposed to do. But with West Ham, they're going to bombard us from set pieces. That's where they get all their joy from. And Porro, not great in the air because of his height. Romero, people would say that's probably one of his only weaknesses he's got, is how good he is in the air. I do think he's improved in the air, by the way, but it's not his strength, right? And Ben Davies, if you put him in there against West Ham, he ain't going to win you any.
Wait, sorry, Romero. Sorry, yeah.
So for me,
and Royale's main strength is in the air, right?
Exactly. So that's why I would actually partner him alongside Romero, because West Ham will look to pinpoint set pieces. It's where they're most dangerous from.
What are you saying? Put Romero on the left
into the box. Yeah, if it has to be done, I would. Look, I get it, right? He's right-footed playing on the left. It's not ideal.
Yeah, but he's played on the left. He's played on the left before.
Any goals the way Ben Davies has.
Last season,
I'd play Emerson on the left.
Last season, he was asked to play on the left-hand side under Conte. I forget which game he was in, and it was an absolute shambles.
Yeah, I'd play Emerson on the left side of centre back.
Romero on the right. You got to let Romero play in his most comfortable position.
Emerson has played back up to Udogi before, right? He's played left back, so I think he's more comfortable playing on the left side than Romero is. Play Emerson. If you're going to play an established player, and you're not going to bring in a Dorrington, then play Emerson on the left and play Romero on the right. And I think it would work better.
Is there an argument to play Dorrington and just get natural balance, but get rid of Davies and?
Well, he plays there on the left for the under-21s, doesn't he? That's predominantly where he plays, on the left-hand side, partnering Ashley Phillips. So, look, for me, I think, look, Davies will get this game, but if he makes another mistake, I think he'll be ousted. And I think then it's, prime for an Emerson or a Dorrington to come in there, plus with the amount of fixtures. But I would definitely play Emerson just purely for the aerial ability. But I also want to highlight the importance of having Romero back. I know there's been a lot made about Romero and his discipline and stuff like that, but since his absence, we've conceded 11 goals across that back line, which is absolutely shocking. And we haven't, transferred the ball out from the back line with any sort of regular fluidity. So, with Romero coming back in, I'm hoping that it will tighten up that back line, that we will be able to progress that ball out from the back line a lot more, two players in the same coloured shirt, which means we'll keep possession and hopefully keep teams further away from our goals. And I just think with Romero, 100%, he makes us a better team. And I'm delighted to absolutely have him back. 11 goals in his absence is absolutely shocking.
Yeah. I can't wait to have him back. Ange was asked about whether or not it's time to ask him to calm it down a little bit in the press conference, and his answer was essentially no. Like, we're just gonna, let Romero let the Rom bomb the Rom, sort of thing, which is great, which is fine. However, it's great until it's not great. If something happens and he's out for another 3 games, then you know what will happen. There'll be meltdowns, and everyone will blame Emerson Royal and Ben Davies and Eric Dyer or Daniel Levy, even though Christian Romero can't just get away forever with recklessness. He doesn't need to calm his personality down, but he needs to think occasionally and risk, have a little bit of like.
But you know what, Sean, right? Do you know what? You said you sort of agree with me that Romero.
No, I do agree. I agree with your logic. I agree with your logic on that.
Yeah. If that wasn't given, we wouldn't be sitting here today talking about Romero's rashness. We wouldn't. Everyone would be applauding him.
No, yeah, that's fine. But listen, the world doesn't work that way. Like the world turns at a certain speed and a certain rotation because of the rules in which people participate in life. And unfortunately, there is the consequences of your actions. That's part of the way the world works. And Romero's previous actions have resulted in a reputation that when those things happen, if he did it, it's a red card. If someone else does it, if Ben Davies does the same challenge, it's probably not a red card. Right? It's just, cause and effect. And I think that Romero shouldn't change his game necessarily to take the sting out of his game, but he needs to think a little bit about cause and effect. Right? He has a reputation now. If he does something silly again, it will be a red card again. Casemiro is the same. There's a few players that happen to operate the same way. I'm not saying change your game. And I do agree with you that the red card, I don't know how else he could have stopped his foot and also cleared the ball at the same time. But we are where we are. Let's move forward, guys. Listen, as much as I agree with you that, it is what it is with the back four, I still think Ben Davies will be on the left-hand side just because he's a senior player and he's left-footed, left-sided. Let's move forward to the 6. A lot of people after the Man City game asking... Oh, sorry, Dave.
Just before you do, Doji is on 4 yellow cards. If he picks up one, that rules him out for Newcastle due to accumulation. So we need a Doji there to hopefully not get booked.
Who's the game after Newcastle? Nottingham Forest. Right? Yeah, it's Nottingham Forest away. Yeah. I'd rather him get it because he's going to get the yellow. I'd rather he get it at Newcastle and miss Forest than at West Ham and miss Newcastle. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, same here. We'll need him for Newcastle. Look. Yeah. Although I agree with you, Sean, I think Man City is a harder game than Newcastle. Newcastle ain't going to be any easy opponents by any stretch of the imagination. I watched them against Man United there. They absolutely dominated them from start to finish. And despite all the injury problems, they're still playing a good brand of football and they're still getting results. You will need a Doji for that game for sure. I think you might get away with it against Forest.
I think we lose to Newcastle, honest to God, I do. I think we could scrape past West Ham. I think that we can get a draw.
Scrape past. Yeah. Adam, what are you saying?
I don't think you realize how buckled we are at the moment. The Chelsea, Wolves, and Aston Villa games are a better indicator of where we're at the moment than the Man City game is. The Man City game, again, I'm telling you, I'm sorry, it all comes down to hoodoo. They should have put us out of sight in the first half.
We were better than Aston Villa.
I know, and then Davies had to go and absolutely ruin the show.
No, hold up, mate. We're going back to the same point. You're blaming the back line for not being able to hold on to a lead when the front line put the ball in the back of the net 3 times, but we're half a yard offside, and we hit the post, we hit the bar. The reason we didn't beat Aston Villa is we didn't take our chances, not because we conceded chances.
It's
both.
It's both. It's both.
I think to Adam's point, though, Adam, I think the point you're trying to make is you look at the last 4 games, we went ahead in every single one of them and we were clawed back.
Yeah.
We didn't go ahead by enough.
We went ahead at Chelsea, went ahead at Wolves, went ahead at Aston Villa, and went ahead at Man City. So I'd argue, to your point, that the forward line have done their job, the back line can't.
Even based on what you're saying, Sean, I'm like the argument that I'm making currently is not just to S all over Ben Davies, but it's to say that we're not in the position to be assuming that things have turned around because of the game against Man City. We're going to go into these next few games and we are going to get a lot less points than people are assuming just because we took a point off the best team in the world.
You might be right. You might be right. I'm not sitting here full of beans and confidence that we're going to smash West Ham, smash Newcastle, smash Forest, even though I've got a 3-weekend accumulator that says we're going to win all 3. But my point is, my point is that the allocation of responsibilities for what happened in the previous 3 games is misplaced. I'm saying that you, Adam, you're saying it's all because of the defense, and I'm saying it's not all because of the defense. Yes, the defense needs to do better in certain circumstances, 100%. But when you are decimated at the back, it's up to the other 7 players on the pitch to step up and go, we got to protect the back line. We have to dominate. We have to take our chances. And against Aston Villa, we didn't take our chances. Against Wolves,
I said that very same thing. I was saying that very same thing. Now that the back line is decimated, it is entirely incumbent upon our attackers to make up for our lack.
And they didn't.
And they're not doing it. I get that. They're not doing it. But if we weren't such an absolute disgrace at the back, we wouldn't have to rely we're basically relying on our players. Our attackers are going out there and getting goals every single game. We never go out there and score nothing, but now we're expecting to go out and score 3, 4, 5 goals because our defense is so bad.
I was going to save this phrase. I created this phrase on my walk along today, my walk today, right? But I was going to save it for when we're talking about Bissouma. I think it's necessary for Bissouma, but I'm going to say this for the entirety of the Tottenham Hotspur philosophy. The entire Ange ball, which isn't a tactic, it's a philosophy, it's a mindset, all right? If you are told to play with fire, then you shouldn't be blamed when you get burnt. Ange ball is a philosophy to take risks, to push forward, to progress the ball at every chance you get. Bissouma got thrown under the bus by so many Tottenham fans because of what happened for the 3rd goal when he turned back on inside himself. Brian Hill did exactly the same thing that led to the 1st goal. I know Brian Hill had a terrible half after that for the first 5 minutes and got substituted, but he was applauded, and rightly so, for breaking the press, for walking through 2 players, for finding Kulusevski, for launching it over the top, and then Sonny goes on, and obviously Ederson made a howler of the. And by the way, just on that one, not to get sidetracked, but what does it tell you about Sonny's confidence in Brennan Johnson? The fact that he took a shot there rather than putting it across the 6-yard box towards Brennan Johnson. That's for another conversation.
Knew that if he takes a shot against Manchester City, it's going in because that's
maybe because the hoodoo, right? But Ederson should have done better there. And if Ederson does save that like he should have done, then he should have been, and rightly so, chastised. But he wouldn't have been chastised like the same way that Ben Davies is for making a mistake, or when someone else makes a mistake at the back, because Sonny doesn't score that, the game is still 0-0. Right?
No, you're missing the point.
There's no chaos.
The other players don't make mistakes as often as Ben Davies does. That's the biggest thing.
Sonny had 3 goals offside against Aston Villa.
Okay, but that's not all just down to him. One of them was ruled out because Brennan Johnson was offside on the through ball.
Okay, but
it's all down to Sonny. But the reality is, when you take the lead in football, and scoring goals is the hardest thing to do in football, you have to then be able to see some games out. You can't go into Adam's point, and I've said this many times over the last few years. You can't expect to go and score 3, 4, 5 goals every single week. It's just not possible. And the fact that we sold a guy that scored 42% of our goals in the summer, it makes it even more impossible. Therefore, the back line has to come to the party at some point, and we keep
These
making
tactics. I think you got. I think I'm begging.
We took the lead. It's very indicative of last season, and seasons gone by where we take the leading games and the back line just cannot hold out.
Last season,
players. When are we going to learn? We can't keep playing everybody else.
Last season, we played a tactic and a philosophy that encouraged the defenders to have to sit in, and it was on the forwards to create the difference.
This season, they can't play the high line and they can't play this way. So
no,
what is it? They just can't play it.
I'm not saying we can't do it. I'm saying have a little bit of tolerance for the philosophy. The philosophy encourages a certain style of play, and it affords the frontline opportunities to score. And if they don't score enough, then when you have a weak and decimated backline, they're going to give up chances. Just like what I'm saying about if you're asking someone to play with fire, don't get mad when they get burnt. Bissouma turning into trouble for the third goal against Manchester City. That is what Postecoglou has asked the team to do. And so you're asking the team. You're asking. Hang on, let me finish. You're asking the team to throw. It's not gung-ho, but it's not far from it. You're asking the team to sit on the halfway line against Chelsea, right? And then we criticize the tactic. We criticize the thing. If you're going to throw the mud, if you want to, which I don't think you should, because I think we should all embrace it and enjoy it. But the situation is with this philosophy that we play, that you are going to increase the amount of chances you get at the front end, and you're going to increase the amount of volatility and the vulnerabilities at the back end. And when that happens, if you're going to be reasonable, you have to bake into your consciousness, bake into your analysis, the fact that the philosophy that we play is set up to indulge that. And so
I get that.
You shouldn't always be throwing the mud at the guys.
We also have to bake into our analysis individual errors within that system, which can be held accountable. The reality is, it doesn't matter what system some of these guys play, they still make the same errors. At the end of the day, Postecoglou's system and philosophy is what it is. But he still expects footballers to still, limit their mistakes and make smart decisions within that system.
Agree.
What Bissouma done was no awareness. Turned inside when he had a free pass out to the left-hand side. His job was already done. He decided to turn back inside and make it harder on himself. And at the end of the day,
because that's what's encouraged. That's what's encouraged.
But also, I think what needs to be baked into your analysis, though, as well, Sean, is that when it comes to the likes of Darren Davies, these guys want to be at Tottenham, and you also have to put pressure on them and expectations of them to perform. If we're not, then what are we doing here? Why are we paying them a wage? What are they doing at this football club that when they step in, we can't expect them to perform? You have to bake into analysis that when these people come in, even though we've got injuries, it's still up to them to come in and perform and try and uphold the standard that the rest of the guys are at.
I'm not saying that the defenders get a blank canvas to do what they want because the philosophy allows them to make mistakes. I'm saying that when we are losing 2-1 to Wolves or 2-1 to Aston Villa, and the analysis after the game is look at Ben Davies and Emerson Royale, I'm saying, but the system is encouraged to create chances. And against Wolves, we didn't create any. Whose fault is that? That's not the defense's fault. That's everybody in front of the defense. And nobody really was having a crack at people in front of the back four. Everyone was saying it's Ben Davies and it's Emerson Royale. And I was saying, well, what happened to the previous 90 minutes? No one seems to have gone after Son. No one had a word about Decky or Brennan Johnson. No one said boo to a goose to Højbjerg or Bissouma. There was none of that. It was all Eric Dyer pumped the ball out. Typical Eric Dyer or typical Ben Davies. Against Aston Villa, yes, they made their mistakes and should be chastised for it. But the system is set up to create 10 chances going forward for every 2 you can see going back. And Tottenham didn't take their chances. And the analysis, once again, was too heavy on the back line. And I think I'd encourage people to bake in, to remember
because
the responsibility in this system is for us to create, and for when we create, to take the chances.
No, the
and we don't.
responsibility is on every player in the 11. Every single player, not just one area. Every single player in the 11 is responsible for the system, not just one area. And the reason why people, don't go after the forward line off one game is because reality is it's very few and far where they don't create or don't score enough goals. But the reason why people go after the back line is because when you've watched Van de Ven, Romero, Porro, Adoji, and Vicario keep clean sheet after clean sheet and keep opposing attackers out, when Davies and that step in, and we can't get over the line in tight games, which is indicative of the way they've been the last 10 years at this football club, that's why they get a lot of the criticism. That's why. And rightly so.
I don't think it's. I'm sorry. I don't think it's true though to say that the attackers don't get the same criticism. I made the point before. It doesn't make any sense to be leveling all. Like it's saying that we're giving the attackers a free pass and blaming the defenders. How many people? Most of the time, I could be wrong. I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong. But from what I've seen, most people when they're talking about the January transfer window and the players they'd like to see come in, what I'm seeing mostly is if you had 3 picks, what would you go for? And most people are saying a centre back, a winger, and a striker. Why do we need a winger and a striker over 2 centre backs? And so the reason being is people are not happy with our attackers either. It's not that we're giving the attackers a free pass. We need another striker because people are not happy with Richarlison. We need another winger because people are not happy with Brian Hill and whoever else, Solomon, who was so and now he's injured. Right? People are definitely giving the attackers the flack that they deserve. And the difference is just that the worst players in the team are the ones that are going to get the most heat of all. And right now, in our starting 11, our worst player by a country mile is Ben Davies. And that's the only reason that he's getting the most heat. But you can't say that we're leveling it at the defenders over the attackers because the attackers are the ones being told, I
haven't heard you guys criticize any of the attackers tonight.
Because we were talking about the back at the start. But
we were trying to pick. We were picking our 11, and we started with the defense.
This part of the conversation, but the previous part of the conversation.
I'm just wondering, how much criticism do you want me to give the front line? Kulu's been superb this season. Sonny scored a lot of goals this season.
Johnson was getting abused
that's my whole point. They've helped the team.
Kulu's been hit and miss.
What has Ben Davies done to help the team this season?
He's only been playing for 3 games.
Okay, but the others have helped the team this season. That's why they don't get the criticism.
I would go the other way and say they do get criticism. They do get the criticism. It's just that Ben Davies is definitely the worst player in the team by a country mile and should have been put out of pasture 3 or 4 years ago.
All right, well, let's move past the midfield because we've been going for an hour and 2, and there's football on as well the second half, so don't want to go for too much longer. Let's continue the first. So we're agreeing though that the back 4 is probably going to be Porro, Romero, Davies, and Doggy. In the 6, we have to talk about this. This is where I was going to use the analogy about playing with fire and getting burnt, but I've already used it, so I won't say it again. Bissouma or Højbjerg. A lot of people have been saying Bissouma's performance was terrible against Manchester City, and it's been terrible for a while. He should be dropped, and Højbjerg should come in. How do you guys feel about who do you feel should come into the 6?
Bissouma needs to stay in the 6 for sure. Bissouma needs, I agree with you in everything that you were saying about not throwing Bissouma to the wolves because of what he did. The fact of the matter is we are playing that kind of football now where we're expected to keep the ball to the floor and we're expected to be doing the things that are unexpected. We're supposed to be dynamic. We're supposed to be taking risks. And as much as that one didn't pay off, and yes, in hindsight, the easy pass was the right thing to do. I have said time and time again that I couldn't stand the likes of Ben Davies, Dyer, Højbjerg, and Winks because of all of this pass left, pass right, pass back nonsense. So I'm not throwing Bissouma under the bus whatsoever. He did something that didn't pay off. It cost us a goal. Fine, okay, that's gonna happen. But is everyone just immediately forgetting that the dude was completely unplayable in the first 3 games of the season. And he's going to need to play his way back into that same form. And once he does, he's the best number 6 in the league. He is the best number 6 in the league. And I'm talking about on form, by the way. Obviously, I'm not saying that he's legitimately better than Rodri. Rodri will go down as one of the best sixes ever. But I mean, on form, Basuma was absolutely unplayable. And you cannot just decide randomly, but after one mistake that costs us a goal, that suddenly he's not fit to play in our team. Nonsense.
Is there any truth, Dave, to the people are saying since the Luton game, since he got his red card, he's gone off the boil a little bit? People worried about, the yellow card hanging over his head. He couldn't dive in. He couldn't do what he wanted to do. That was out of the way against Villa. Out of the way against Manchester City. But like I say, a lot of people, I disagree. I don't disagree. I don't think he had a great game. I'm not going to sit here and pretend he had a great game. I don't think he did. But I'm also, like I've already made the point. I think he's asked to do certain things. He's trying to break the line, because if he does break that press, we go and we score in all likelihood. But what I would say, just quickly before I hand over to you, Dave, is that it's a double-edged sword. This idea that Brian Hill invoked and Basuma invoked, if you always do that when you're on the edge of the D, if you turn around and you think that you're going to pass it one way, but if it becomes predictable, and predictability is the worst ability, if you do that too many times, that will become very obvious that is a tactic that Tottenham do, and you will have two men press, whichever the team is. They will know that guy is going to do that, and they'll recover the ball in the worst possible position to lose the ball and turn over. And Basuma did get picked. I don't necessarily want to throw the mud at him for doing it, because I think he's asked to do it. But I also worry about how often we're going to do it, the frequency of doing it, and how quickly it will be found out. Is Basuma rightfully criticised, Dave? Should he start tomorrow?
100% rightly criticised. I think people need to understand these players are taking extortionate money from the football club. Yes, the football club paid them, but at the end of the day, their agents are there asking for all these fees. And I do think, when every player should be susceptible to criticism. We've got this mantra at Tottenham that it seems like you're not allowed to criticise individuals. I mean, look, Basuma was shit. Let's call a spade a spade. He wasn't good enough against Man City, and I do blame him for that second goal. Although he's asked to do what he's asked to do, he's also asked not to be reckless with it as well. But he was reckless. He done the hard work. Could have played the ball out to left back. He chose to cut back inside, knowing that when he loses that ball, they're straight on Emerson and Davies. That's just stupid. That's brain dead. That's absolutely brain dead. There has to be intelligence with it as well, with what he's being asked to do. So I'm not excusing every single player's mistake just because it's what they're asked to do and it's the way they're asked to play. There has to be intelligence within that. So for me, rightly so, completely rightly so, that he gets criticised. You can see on the football pitch, his performances have dramatically decreased from where he was at the start of the season. But for me, saying that, I still wouldn't drop him. I think he owes us fans a massive performance. I don't think there is anyone else in the team, to a degree, that can do what he can do in terms of getting on the ball, being comfortable with it at the back, not being afraid to, draw people into him and try and take them on and stuff like that, but also driving at people on the ball. And against West Ham, against Man City, that was very deep. But against West Ham, it ain't going to be that deep on the edge of our box where he's getting the ball. That deep position is actually just going to be inside West Ham's half. So it's a complete different game and a complete different thing of what you're asking him to do there. So for me, I would actually start Basuma, but I do think rightly so, he should be criticised.
Moving forward then, boys, to the next player on the team sheet, the second 8, the deeper 8, the right-hand side 8, however you want to think of it. Pape Sarr has been there. People were talking about whether he was going to be fit. According to Ange Postecoglou, he isn't fit. He's not ready. And so on that basis, the options are probably Højbjerg. Lesser likely is Skip, or maybe Gio Lo Celso. Is there anyone who wants to put the claim out for anyone other than Gio Lo Celso? For me, Gio Lo Celso has commanded his spot in that role and absolutely deserves to keep his place. Definitely.
I wouldn't argue against that. I mean, Lo Celso is he is at the moment the on-form player, isn't he? Between him and Kulusevski, you've got to play the two of them and play them in the positions where they're strongest at the moment. And Lo Celso has been playing in that left-sided 8. Which is remarkable considering he's a left-footed player. You think he'd want to play on the right, so it's just a better opportunity of scoring with his left foot. But he's been playing so well on the left side, and so with him playing in the number 8 and Kulu in front of him in the number 10, that's the strongest team that we've got available at the moment.
Do you agree, Dave?
Sorry, King Huddle. That was it was annoying me in the comments. Sorry, what was the question?
Who's playing in the number 8? Where I'm going with Lo Celso.
Is it Lo Celso?
Oh, in the number 8, Højbjerg. No, yeah, Højbjerg. I'll play Højbjerg there. I think he deserves to be. Lo Celso will obviously play on the other side, but I do think Højbjerg deserves to be rewarded for changing the game against Man City.
Okay, so interesting. So let's scoot forward then for the purposes of making the conversation fluid. If you're saying that it's Bissouma, Højbjerg, and Lo Celso, then that suggests that you want to see Decky be played back on the right-hand side again. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, I would much rather see Kulusevski back on the right and Johnson on the left. I think when we made that change with bringing Højbjerg in, yeah, Højbjerg made a massive difference defensively, but Brennan Johnson and Kulusevski combined for that late goal, for that third goal. And I thought we looked a lot more sort of, what would you call, a lot more dangerous with them either side against Man City. So that's what I would go with Son up front.
Yeah, for me, Adam, second half, look, I think we were the much better team in the second half, but I also absolutely adore Decky in the central position. And I'd love to see Decky play in the 10. But if you play Decky in the 10 and Lo Celso in the 8 and you drop Højbjerg, then obviously that means you probably have to either pick Richarlison or Brian Hill to play on the left if you're going to stick Brennan Johnson on the right.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on where you want to see Decky play tomorrow?
No, look, I think that there is an argument to be made. I'm not going to be dogmatic and say that. I want to see Decky play in the 10 more because I do think that that's an excellent position for him. I want to see us purchase a lot more wingers during the next few transfer windows because the ones that we have don't excite me enough. I was a winger. Wingers are my favorite players. I don't have any wingers that I absolutely love at this team at the moment. And I think that Decky is just incredibly good in the 10. So I'd love to see a rotation of him and Maddison playing in the number 10 role and get a few more wingers in. But I can see the argument for playing Bissouma, Højbjerg, Lo Celso in the middle so that Lo Celso can play a bit more advanced. Can he be a bit more creative and stay further forward and do the Maddison job? I'm just not sure that he's able to penetrate the exact same way that Maddison can. So I don't know if we're wasting him. And what I would say about Højbjerg, so basically what the argument truly is, yes, you can have the debate about whether Decky's better in the 10 or out wide, but either way, Decky's going to give you an outstanding performance. Decky's been phenomenal. And I don't care whether he's out on the right or whether he's in the 10. He's going to give you a great performance. The argument is really
in the first half. I think he's been rubbish in the first half. If you actually go back and look, he's better in the second half. He was better in the second half against Luton, but he was rubbish in the first half against Luton.
Because he has a gas tank like no other, and when everybody else is tiring, he's just bossing the place.
100%. But when everybody's fit in the first half and he's shoehorned onto the right-hand side, I keep saying shoehorn. It's a bad word to say because for me, he's got the Cinderella slipper waiting to fit on his feet in the first half. You put him into the 10 and you give him the freedom to move around the pitch. And when you in the second half, when the game opens up a little bit more, it's more logical to put him on the right-hand side because you're counter-pressing, you're doing the Guggen thing, and he can run at players when there's more space. But in the first half, and you're asking him to run at players from the right, when you know what he's going to do, he's predictable. I love Decky, absolutely adore him, but I'm going to critique him as I would any other player. He is terrible driving at a player one-on-one because he does the same thing every time. And whenever he's afforded the space down the byline, but he doesn't trust his right foot, which is madness to me. Whenever he uses his right foot, he's good enough with it. But in the first half, I think he should be in the 10.
I don't disagree with you that I would. I said I'd rather see him in the number 10, and principally I want to see him in the number 10 because I would. You're basically with the options that we're presenting. You're either going to have Decky playing out wide, you're going to play Lo Celso in the 10, and then you're playing Højbjerg in the 8, or you're playing.
You don't need to play Højbjerg, right? You don't.
No, let's be fair. What we're very, very likely to see is it's going to be like Højbjerg is the one that's in form at the moment. So it's going to be Bissouma, Højbjerg, Lo Celso, or it's going to be Bissouma, Lo Celso, Decky. Most likely, I know there are other options. Right. But that's the most likely given who we have available, right? Really what it comes down to is it's either going to be Højbjerg playing in the middle of the middle three, or Lo Celso, Decky are playing in the middle three with Basuma, and then instead of Højbjerg in the team, you have either Richarlison or Hill out on the left. So that's what the real argument is.
Richarlison's not apparently he's not ready to start.
He's not good for 90 minutes. Okay, so it's Hill out on the left again. So either way, the argument for me mostly becomes
Højbjerg or Hill. Essentially,
do I want to see Højbjerg or Hill? Do I want to see Højbjerg or Hill? And I want to see Hill over Højbjerg every day of the week, especially because I know Højbjerg did a decent job against Man City. But Højbjerg, what people fail to realize with Højbjerg is he'll give you one good game, then one shit game, then one good game, then one. Sorry, I shouldn't have swore, but one good game, one bad game, one good game. That's the way he is. I'm sorry. If you can't see that, then you're blinded by love for the man, because he will give you one good game, one bad game. I guarantee you, he plays against West Ham, he's going to be a donkey. So I would rather see Hill playing, to be honest, for that reason, even though I would. Which again, sorry, ultimately puts Decky where I want him to be. Now, just before I let you kind of take it off on that one, I just want to comment, because you made the point again about Decky on when he does play on the wing that I just don't agree with. I hope, please, anybody who's got editing skills and has time on their hands to be able to do this, go do a smash cut of all the times that Decky actually doesn't suddenly turn in so he can use his left foot, and
it won't take you long.
Down.
It won't take you long.
It will take you a good long while. He does it all the time.
It might take you long to find them, but it won't take long to put them together. There's only about 3 or 4 in the last 6 games.
Not true. If Decky will quite consistently decide to take the ball to the end line, and then he's so strong that once he's at the end line and he cuts in at that point, and then he will use his right foot to pass. That happens
when he does it. He's brilliant.
When
he does it, he's brilliant. He doesn't do it enough. He doesn't do it anywhere near enough.
No, he does it.
1 in 20. Dave, how many times? In 20 take-ons, how many times does he cut in versus 7. How many times does he cut down the right?
He'll go down the right 7 times out of 20, I'd say.
Never.
Yeah,
never, ever.
For sure. It's madness. I can't believe if you're just not watching when that happens. He does it loads. He's not a one-trick pony.
I think when it comes to Kulu, I kind of see what Borty was saying. Look, with Kulusevski's left foot, naturally, right, he's going to want to cut it inside on his left foot. That's just going to be natural in his brain. However, even when he does cut in, it's still effective because he has, people go on about his pace, but that's not what we got. We bought him because he uses his size, world class, like what Harry Kane done. Harry Kane didn't have pace, but what he did use is his size and his strength to a world class ability to make it effective on all players. That's what Kulu does. But I do agree with Adam. I do see him quite a bit going on the outside and trying to.
No, what you're seeing is in the second half. You're seeing in the second half when he has space, when we break and the ball is played on the right hand side, when teams are pushing up and we break and we go, then he's driving in that direction. But in the first half, I'd challenge. Take Adam. Anyone who's good at editing, I'd take Adam's challenge on and show me 5 times in the first 45 minutes against low block teams when he cuts down the right hand side, cuts down the byline, and uses his right foot.
I hope someone has the time to do this. I really do, because I'm telling you, you'll
I've
find.
I've got Y-Scout tool, mate. I've got Y-Scout tool. I can see every take on that he does in chronological order, and I can see what time in the game he does it. When he takes players on down the byline, it's in the second half. This is why I'm saying he's a first.
I'm not letting you move the goalpost here, Sean. I'm not letting you move the goalpost. I don't care whether it's the first half or the second half. He does it.
That's the whole point I made about him. Adam, I love Decky. I absolutely adore him. I said to you,
you're calling him a one-trick pony.
He is
some weird way of showing your love.
He is. But if you're going to find the times when he does the second trick, right? He's a second half merchant. That's why I'm saying to use Decky. He is a 10 in the first half, and he should be a 7 or an 11 in the second half. Or put him on the left hand side where he can use his dominant foot to the best utility.
Bring Højbjerg on in the second half, move Decky out wide, get Hill off.
100%.
Okay, if that's what you want to do, fine. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that at all. I'm just going to defend my boy and say the guy's got skills.
You haven't got to defend him for me. I love him. He's my favorite. He's one of my
favorite. You called him a one-trick pony, and he's not.
One thing
He's
I
not
think
a
that isn't
one-trick pony.
One thing that I think isn't taken into consideration with Kulu Sexy is that when whoever plays on the left hand side always has a doji overlapping or underlapping, which takes players with them, which buys them more space, which makes them, more space to be able to operate in. With Kulu, Poro doesn't do that a lot of the times. He plays inverted in the right and comes into the midfield. So Kulu actually doesn't have anyone overlapping him or really underlapping him. So 9 times out of 10, he is left up there on his own. And sometimes it is only against the fullback, but a lot of times their winger comes back and helps them out. So it's actually him on his own up against 2 people, which makes his job a hell of a harder than anyone playing over on that left-hand side.
I agree, but he gets given a lot more ball. He gets distributed to the ball. Go back and watch. Listen, I'm gonna do the thing you've asked me to do, mate, because I can do it very simply. I've got every single take on.
I don't trust Sean. Someone else do it.
We'll do it on a live stream. We'll do it on a background of a live stream, mate, where you can see it chronologically. I guarantee you will see the timings when he takes players on down the byline. It's always in the second half, or 90% of the time it's in the second half.
I don't care when it is. You're not allowed.
It's important because that's why I'm supporting your idea. I'm just saying that when he plays in the center in the first half, he gets to use his strength, and people don't know what to expect of him. In the second half, when he gets put back on the right-hand side, the game is spread. You're moving
the goalpost, Sean. You're moving the goalpost. I don't care about this first half, second half nonsense you're trying to create right now. You said he's a one-trick pony and that he can't go down the right. He always goes down on the left. That is nonsense. It is total utter nonsense. Just own up to your nonsense.
I'm not talking. I will never own up. When I say he's a one-trick pony, that is an overall summary of what he does. He is 95%,
which is entirely accurate. It grossly
99% left-footed, mate. He is. If you disagree with that, then you're delusional. You are delusional.
At minimum 5 times out of 20, he'll go down the right. So he's
there. You said what did you say a minute ago? 7, 8.
I said 7. I will bet 7, but minimum 5. At least he's got 25%. Giving you the
he gets to the byline.
Absolutely. You're wrong. Absolutely. Goes to the byline, cuts back in. Sometimes, and he will just push his way into the center, into the box. He's done it so many times, just brutalizing people.
It happens twice a game.
Outstanding. Twice a game.
I'll keep score tomorrow.
Twice a game is loads.
Not if you've got the ball 40 times, mate. It isn't.
Twice a game is loads.
If you've got the ball he touches the ball 45 times, and he does the same thing 37 of them.
Most of the time, he just passes the ball.
I love him. I absolutely adore Decky. I just wish he would balance it out. And by the way, the reason why when he does go down the byline, he is so much more successful is because every single coach and every single defender, every left back in world football knows what he's going to do when he gets the ball. They show him to the byline because they know that he is 80 times more likely to cut in on the left-hand side. Dave,
that's why he does it so frequently.
Dave, just realign this absolute madness that I have to like justify this crazy concept that Alan's putting out there, that it's more balanced. The Decky is more balanced.
You said he's a one-trick pony. He is not a one-trick pony.
Stop latching on to this idea that when I say one-trick pony,
I'm not latching. You said you have to defend your idea. You have to defend that statement.
I will recalibrate then. He is a 95% of the time a one-trick pony, and I'm confident in saying that.
Predominantly, he will cut inside rather than go outside. It is his preferred move.
It is. It happens more. I'm not saying it's not more often. I'm not saying it's not more often. I'm saying that he's not a one-trick pony. If I do something 30% of the time and something else 70% of the time, I'm not a one-trick pony just because one has the majority.
Hold it, mate. This is semantics. You're getting into a semantic nonsense because I say that means he does it every time. Does it? I never say he does it every time.
You cannot call someone one-trick pony. You're the one with the semantics.
If you actually heard me say it on any of my walks, I say the guy's a one-trick pony. But the occasional time that he does take it down to the byline, I said I don't know why he doesn't do it more often because I've never seen him
do it often. He does it often enough that you can't call him a one-trick pony.
You're hanging on to this one-trick pony thing.
Stop because it's an insult to an exceptional human being.
I love the man. You know what? Let's move on.
I'm sure he hates you.
To settle the debate, he offers a lot more outside of just going forward. It's the work rate, the willingness to track back and help others out defensively. The amount of running the guy does, absolutely unbelievable engine. So there is a lot more to Kulu, whether then does he just go inside or outside.
All right, so to move on, yeah, because I love Decky, and Adam's trying to pigeonhole me into thinking that I don't like him. I love him to pieces. I just
Decky
wish he
knows.
would. I
Decky
wish
knows.
he would use that talented right foot that he has access to use more often than he does, and that would include the amount that Adam is misaligning how much he actually offers that side of his game.
It was a
Anyway,
smash
on the
mouth
left
goal.
hand side, we're going to go with Brian Hill. Adam, you're going with Brian Hill.
I would go in an ideal world, yes, because I think if Højbjerg plays, he's going to have another stinker because he's it's every other game that he has a decent game. He's not good enough.
I'm going to start picking apart your takes on Højbjerg next time. But listen, I won't tonight. And Sonny up top. Dave, do you agree? Brian Hill on the left, or do you want to see you wanted to see Højbjerg? So does that mean that you want to see Brennan Johnson on the left and Decky on the right?
Look, as much as I love Brian Hill, he hasn't done enough for me to warrant to start. I just think we looked so much better when Højbjerg came into the midfield, and Brennan Johnson went out to the left-hand side. Gill really did struggle up against Kyle Walker. And look, you have to take into account that Kyle Walker is probably one of the best right-backs in the world, if not the best. He's pocketed Mbappe, Dembele, and stuff like that. But even against Aston Villa, I thought there were times where Gill could have been a bit more proactive in terms of trying to make things happen in the final third. And if we're going off what Ange Postecoglou usually does, which is a meritocracy, if you play well, you get rewarded. But yeah, so for me, as much as I love Gill, and this is why I always say I don't have any agendas, because I'm not afraid to drop players I love. And I do think that, he should be dropped to the bench and that Brennan Johnson should come back in on the left. I actually want to see more Brennan Johnson floating the ball towards the back post with Kulu coming in on the right-hand side and smashing headers.
Yeah, 100% agree. And then obviously, I think we all agree Sonny's up top. Listen, guys, we are going to wrap it up. We've got our first starting 11 for tomorrow. Listen, for anyone who's watching who is looking to do fan cams, I probably won't be able to do the fan cams tomorrow because I've been very, very luckily invited by a very generous man who provides me with away tickets to go into the Tunnel Club. So hopefully I'll be able to get a really cool match day vlog from one of the best seats in the house if I can get away from the fine dining that they're going to be providing. I can't wait for it. Unreal. It's going to be unreal. Listen, guys, go and watch. There's a lot of football on right now. I've just seen Emi Martinez made an absolute world-class goal line save from Erling Haaland, and Aston Villa are currently on the break. It's a big game, a big night of football. So I'm going to let everyone go. I want to say a massive thank you to Dave and to Adam for joining me for this little preview game. Predictions, guys, and where can you find each other? I'll start with you, Dave. What's your prediction for the West Ham game, my man?
Do you know what? I think largely it's a very frustrating game. I think with West Ham with the low block, chances. I don't think as maybe we did against Aston Villa or someone like that. But saying that, I think it will be a night where whatever chances we create, we'll go them 3-1 against West Ham. I do think West Ham will probably score one from a set piece. But it is very important we have the game out of sight by the last 10 minutes. If you look at some of West Ham's recent results, it was against Burnley again. If they're in the game, even if they're 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go, they will catch you with set pieces. So it's very important that we get into that last 10 minutes with a 2-goal lead, in my opinion. But I'm going 3-1. I back the boys to get the job done. I think the City game hopefully is a turning point. And we win. And we beat Newcastle Sunday. Title race back on.
Title race is back on. There we go. I completely agree, mate. But Adam, before I give you mine, let me hear yours, my man. What's your prediction and where can people find you?
So I don't think that it's going to be so. I think we are going to scrape it. As I said, I'm going to stick to my convictions. I think we're going to scrape it only for the fact that it's West Ham and we're disgusted whenever we lose to those guys. So I think we'll put in a performance that will get it over the line. But I can see a goal from Jared Bowen. I can see a goal from Ward-Prowse. And I think that we're going to have to really, really fight and scrap to make sure that we get it over the line. But I do think it'll end up being 3-2 to Tottenham.
3-2. Yeah.
And I don't think that it's going to be the turnaround after Man City that people expect. I think that we'll scrape West Ham because it's West Ham and we'll want to put on a show. And then we'll go to Newcastle and get battered. We'll go to Forest and probably lose that game as well. Probably get very.
Oh,
very
mate,
few
what are
points.
you doing?
Very
What are
few
you
points until
doing?
Bournemouth. Very
Whatever
few
you've
points
had to
until
eat
Bournemouth.
today, don't eat again in future, Adam.
Mate.
I said I am in the short term negative, in the long term positive. We are going to have an incredible future with Spurs, but between now and January, it's going to be brutal, lads. It's going to be brutal.
Okay. Dave, just quickly, so people can find you guys at Wild Stag Media for Adam. The link is in the title, and get over as well to Irish Hotspur if you haven't already. I'm sure most of you guys, if you haven't already, you will do right after this. I'm also going to say that we're going to score 3 goals. I think actually Adam might be right. I think that we'll be 3-1 up with 10 minutes to go, and then in the last couple of minutes we'll go 3-2 up. I think that West Ham will score 1. It'll be an edgy last 5 minutes, but I'll be so high on life on drinking champagne and having lobster or something. I won't care too much. As long as we get the 3 points, I'm getting an Uber home. It's going to be very, very expensive, but it is what it is. That's life at Tottenham when you know people that do a thing or two for a guy. Shout out to that man. I know you are the man that doesn't wish to be named, but you know who you are, and I very much appreciate you and your son for your generosity. Adam, Dave, love you to pieces. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's joined us, and thank you to Drew for the super chat and for Frankly. Guys, we're gonna leave you there. Go and watch the football, and we'll see you tomorrow. Or you'll see me on the fan cat on the kind of pre-match stuff and all that stuff. I love you all. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,
come on, you Spurs.
Spurs.